Guys, good afternoon. The Eagles win the Super Bowl, and it really wasn't close, right? Like, I think everybody was watching the game thought the Chiefs would eventually make a run at some point, whether it was 10 nothing, 17 nothing, 24 nothing, and they just couldn't get there. Halfway through the third quarter, you started to realize that this thing was over. Man, Chiefs had no chance to win the game. It was eerily similar to the Buccaneers Super Bowl from a few years ago. I did say yesterday I thought the offensive line would be able to protect Mahomes. It's hard to think that there's any other headline coming out of the game. I would say the two headlines for the Chiefs are they could not protect Mahomes slash run the football, if you want to put that together. Just overwhelmed, unbelievable. Get more into that in a second. And then the second thing is Mahomes cracked. He cracked the way Brady, Manning, Lamar, Elway, Marino, anybody has cracked. But not everybody cracks in the Super Bowl. And if you crack in the Super Bowl, those are just plays that everybody remembers. And Manning's interception against New Orleans in the whatever Super Bowl that was, I think it was 2009, 2010 season, that one sticks out. And it just Brady never cracked in the Super Bowl. He cracked in other spots. There's other bad passes he's made, but in a Super Bowl, his three losses, Brady were the two to the Giants, and then the shootout with the Eagles. He never really cracked. That it was 10-0. It was frustrating. Chiefs could not get anything rolling, and Mahomes cracked. He made the one play that just gave the Chiefs no chance to win. Because I still think if it was 10-0 and they pumped the ball there before he throws that pick six, the Eagles offense, as we'll get to in a second, really wasn't rolling either. So they were having a hard time moving the Chiefs up front. But Mahomes cracked. He threw the pick. Cooper DeJean, I mean, it was Barkley's birthday. I know it was Cooper's birthday too. Holy moly. Best day of your life. 20, what is he, 23 years old, 22 years old. Just an unbelievable play. He sat, they're in the zone. He's supposed to be kind of eyeing the sideline there. I think it was Worthy was running the sideline route. You listen to Patrick talk about it after the game, and Mahomes thought he looked him off. He probably always looks these guys off. It probably works 90% of the time. This time he could not look him off. He just baited him into throwing it. The guy was open. I think it was Hopkins coming back. It probably would have been a first down. And instead, it's the pick six. 17 was just too many. Too many points. So that's the headline here is Mahomes cracked. And the second interception is like the crack part two. Like that one, I would say is, not really completely on him. Really tough when your left tackle, left guard, whoever it was exactly, got thrown right into him as he's throwing the ball. Still probably have to anticipate that and can't make that pass right there. Regardless, that's the headline. Is Mahomes cracked, two interceptions, lead to 14 points, way too many for the Chiefs to overcome. And then they really didn't have a chance. If he doesn't throw these interceptions, I don't know, maybe they have a 20-25% chance to win the game because their offensive line was overwhelmed from the get-go. The most amazing stat of anything from last night is that the Eagles did not blitz. Like if you watch the game and you see how many was it, 6 sacks, could have been 12. All the pressures, all the just hits, all over him every single time he went back to throw after that first drive. Just had no chance. The most impressive part is that they didn't blitz. You would have thought if that was the game script that you didn't have to blitz Mahomes and he would play like that. Wow. Just wow. So Jalen Carter and company led the way. I really thought that's what was going to happen. I didn't know if it was going to be that dramatic. I don't think anybody really thought the Eagles were going to be up 34-0 at one point. I mean, my God. But yeah, they couldn't block. They couldn't block. You see this in if you follow sports, you've been to high school football, Pop Warner football. This happens all the time, every season, where you're like, "Holy shit, this game's over before it starts." Very rarely does it happen in the NFL, let alone the Super Bowl, where after those first couple of drives, you're like, I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. They committed to not running the football. Those were the easiest bets of the entire day because they didn't even try to run the football. Forget being down. They came out of the gate and were like, we can't run the football. That was the bad sign. That was a sign that the Chiefs felt like they literally can't run the football. Um, Yeah, so no running whatsoever were the final stats. I think Mahomes led them. Yeah, Mahomes had 25 himself. Hunt 3 carries for 9 yards, and Pacheco 3 carries for 7 yards. I mean, holy shit! Like just a dominant performance from the Eagles all the way around. What can I tell you that you don't already know? I mean, geez, like they really had absolutely no opportunity to do anything. And I think the main takeaway from the Chiefs' perspective, offensively, and then we'll kind of pivot to a couple other things, is and I said it yesterday, you build your team around the offensive line. So here's my, I guess, a little rant for my main takeaway being around kids this generation and thinking about offensive linemen. Like, what kid really wants to be an offensive lineman anymore? Who in general ever wanted to be an offensive lineman? Those are like a special group of people. Like to want to be an offensive lineman, it's usually not your first choice. So usually the only way you stay alive in football is you become an offensive lineman, right? You don't start off dying to be an offensive lineman. Maybe there's you're able to catch the ball, you're a receiver, you're just super big, and then you're not fast enough, you get transitioned. I see that all the time with youth sports where the big bad kid is awesome and he can catch the ball, but he turns into the offensive lineman. Especially down here in Georgia, you got some big boys. It's not their first choice. Nobody's first choice is to go outside with their friends and be like, I'll block. You know what I mean? So I say that to say that if you're an elite offensive lineman, the value that you have, especially now when nobody wants to be an offensive lineman and being a defensive lineman is way more profitable. And besides being more glorious, it's way more profitable to be an elite defensive lineman. Getting after the passer, you can get that 1-2 contract. Anyway, you got to value it. You got to value the offensive line. And the Chiefs did that by getting Creed Humphrey, the center. He's great. They did that by having Tooney come in after they lost in Tampa to play left guard. They have Trey Smith, their right guard, but they've never figured out this tackle position. Even in the years that Mahomes won these past couple of years, their left and right tackle position always feels like they're patching it together, and it bit them again. That's why they're 3-2 in the Super Bowl. They haven't built the team the exact way you're supposed to. And the way you're supposed to do it is elite offensive line, period. I'm not sure exactly when I figured that out, but luckily for me, and I guess most people listening, being a Ravens fan in the early 2000s, you just realize that the national media, the way they would discuss the Ravens defense, would leave out Goose and Adams, a lot of the times. And I'm the biggest Ray Lewis fan there is, but you start to realize at a young age, like, oh, if the other team has to use all their offensive linemen to block two guys, that's going to free everything else up. It's going to be really hard to run on that team. And the Eagles have built a team where they're ginormous up front. So it's really hard to run against them, just like that 2000 Ravens. It's not the same thing, but geez, it was like Jalen Carter in the middle, Jordan Davis. They rotate a million guys. You just can't run on them, especially once they moved Tooney to the outside instead of having him inside. They were getting no push. So if that's a situation and you can't run on the team, then you at least have to have an offensive line that can hold up in pass protection long enough for an elite quarterback to try to figure it out. And they just couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Give credit to the Eagles. So I blame the Chiefs for not strengthening their offensive line. Xavier Worthy, fuck him. He got all his damn props when it didn't matter. He was getting shut out of the game. He got nothing when it actually mattered. Couldn't get open. Hollywood Brown couldn't get open. DeAndre Hopkins got open, then he fell down. That was the play of the game early for the Chiefs if they were going to get something going. Like those were the guys they added. Juju Smith. They did not prioritize the offensive line. So on the other side, the Eagles did. They prioritized the defensive line and you just have to marvel at. Here's something I also wait. Let me get back to the offensive line. I don't know if I finished my point there. There's all these skill players that play running back and receiver. So you can have a million of them, right? Because as a kid, you want to play running back, you want to play receiver, you want to play quarterback. Those are the glamorous positions. So there's a lot of those guys to pick and choose from. There's not a gigantic separation between the Tylan Wallaces of the world and, you know, any of the receivers on the Chiefs, right? Like any of those guys. I'm like, there's just not. I don't want to start just naming random people here because there are some elite receivers where you're like, yeah, that guy's a difference maker. But you go through it, what's like 15, 20, 25 of them? Are any of those guys like, I don't know. Like it just doesn't change the outcome of the season, right? Like that's not why the Eagles are there. That's the window dressing at the end was adding AJ Brown. It's not the foundation of it. And I felt like the Chiefs figured that out by going defense and building out the defense, but they didn't do the offensive line. You want to find the elite offensive linemen. That's what's going to carry it. And on the flip side, so anyway, that's my point. I don't know if I nailed my point. It sounded better in my head before I recorded. But anyway, Eagles defensive line fantastic. Their offensive line's fantastic also. That's what they prioritized. They were awesome. Like they were awesome in protecting Hurts, the offensive line. They weren't great in providing for Barkley. Like it was a combination of I think the Chiefs' defensive line getting a little bit of a push, and the fact that the Chiefs are just really good tacklers. Sometimes it takes that one or two, breaking of a tackle, that long run to loosen up the defense. And Barkley just couldn't get going. Those were the props that. Those were probably the only props that Vegas really made money on. A lot of the props that most people had ended up hitting as far as it going over. Mahomes' bets all hit. Hurts, for the most part, hit. Barkley's receiving hit, but he had 25 carries, only 57 yards, and it was just nothing was there. Chiefs defense did a really good job. But when Jalen went back to throw the ball, he had time. Not only did he have time to throw the ball to make a couple deep throws, but he was able to navigate. What did he finish? 11 for 72. He was able to, there was enough holes. The offensive line was able to hold up enough for him to slither through. We've seen it happen now 3 weeks, 3 games in a row against the Chiefs. Stroud did it. Excuse me. And Josh did it. And then Jalen did it, finding these gaps, finding a hole, and the offensive line held up. So give the Chiefs credit for playing pretty good defense up front. I would say really good defense up front. But then, yeah, it was McDuffie on the back end, and the other corner, Johnson, couldn't guard Brown and Smith on a couple deep balls. And, you look at that, and there's two things there. It's like, yeah, they made the plays, but there was not a lot of pressure on those throws either. They didn't force the Eagles into too many pressure situations because they just dominated from the get-go. But Hurts he was money. I mean, he made the fourth down play. When they called it back, I know everybody was ready to scream the fix was in on the first interference call. Really bad call. Brady, get to him in a minute. But, yeah, I don't know how you make that call to start the game. That was a pretty rough one. But that was a perfect throw that Hurts made on a 4th and 2, 4th and 3. It's a pretty ballsy set-the-tone moment. And then they got it back on the next possession where, I don't know how you call that on McDuffie. As Brady said in the broadcast, the ball's high, it's football. Just what are we doing? Yeah, but I just thought overall that the Eagles stuck to the game plan and Hurts made enough plays, but it really just came down to the same narrative that you'll have from the 2007 Super Bowl, and that's what I want to get to before I wrap up. But yeah, this Super Bowl, people that are acting like, man, the Eagles reinvented how to play football and all you have to do is find 4 defensive linemen that can rush the quarterback. I'm like, that is exactly what happened in 2007. Like, that's exactly what the Giants did. The Eagles didn't reinvent football. Everybody's been trying to do this. It's hard to find 4 guys that you can pay to rush the quarterback while building out the rest of your team. The Eagles built the perfect team. You can make the argument that the Chiefs had the best quarterback over the past, 6-7 years, and their teams have been really, really, really good. But when you look back, I think 10, 15 years from now and you have some different perspective, this is going to be the best team by far. Like this singular Eagles team, and depending on what they do the next 5 years, they might go down as a bigger dynasty because they built the perfect team. Based on the rules, based on the way football's played, they built the perfect team because everybody's trying to find 4 guys to rush the quarterback. That's what the Giants did. I'm going to forget their names. It was OC, Strahan, I don't know why I started. Anyway, but they would rush 4 guys the entire game. Spagnuolo, the 07 Giants, 4 guys. and they just dominated Brady up front. And that is the only way. It is. You can love football and know all the X's and O's and get really into it, which, by the way, is super fun. Like, football is great. It's the best sport. John Gruden's podcast this year has been like just amazing for me to listen to. All the details. There's so many great podcasts that pull up film and really explain football to you. But if you just want to simplify things, once you're able to rush the quarterback with four guys, the game's impossible. Because if you can't run the ball and you only rush four guys, last time I checked that there's 11 guys on the field, so 7 guys are left to guard what? At least 5? 4 or 5 guys? You can only send out 5 guys. There's 5 guys blocking and there's a quarterback. So that's 7 guys on defense to guard 5 potential receivers. If you keep in another guy because you're trying to help the 4-man rush, like they did sometimes with Kelsey, so now you got 7 guys guarding 4. You can put Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, and Gronk out there, and they're going to have a hard time getting open against NFL linebackers, safeties, and corners, and a defensive coordinator like Fangio, who's been around forever. The Eagles only rushed 4 guys. They didn't blitz yesterday. Like, they had the perfect team. For Mahomes' sake and the Chiefs and their legacy and all that, I'm glad they were able to add their stupid points at the end of the game, because if not, this was going to go down the same way the Seahawks destroyed the Broncos. Like, the Seahawks are always going to have that claim of being the best defense once the rules changed, right? Like, you'll have the Ravens defense in the 2000s. That's one type of defense. The Bucks are a distant second, but they're there. You had a couple other teams that were really good. Then you had the rule changes where you couldn't kill the quarterback. It was like 2010 or 11 when concussion came out and all the rules changed. And that Seahawks defense gets the claim of like, damn, what was that best defense that you remember over the past 10 years? We'd be like, well, remember they won 43-8 and Peyton Manning was leading the best offense of all time and they just could do absolutely nothing. And that's what the Eagles did. You're going to look back on this team and be like, holy moly, they just shut out the Chiefs. They built the perfect team. They drafted the 2 right corners. They knew that their secondary sucked after last year. It wasn't good enough 2 years ago when they lost to the Chiefs. It was really bad last year. So they used 2 first-round picks on 2 corners, and they hit Mitchell and DeJean. They got Blankenship back there, who's really solid. I mean, man, they really did build the perfect team. So got to give them credit. Hurts is not better than Lamar. He's not better than Burrow, or he's probably not better than Herbert. But he's the best quarterback for this team because he runs the scheme the way they want to run it, which is no ego. Lamar's amazing. Lamar will run when Lamar wants to run. He doesn't like to run as being known for it. It is what it is. Everybody grows up differently. Hurts doesn't mind it, and he's reaping the rewards right now because he's the MVP. He's the Super Bowl champ. He gets it over Cam Newton, over Mike Vick, and over Lamar right now. Not just talking black quarterbacks. I'm just saying the running quarterbacks, like over Josh Allen. Like, he gets it by committing to the run, as we're just going to shorten these games, control time of possession, try to make it 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And the ironic part was the Chiefs defense was good enough yesterday to still beat them, but they didn't turn the ball over. He had the one bad interception. But to be fair, they did kind of, it's like a really good punt, put him on the 2-yard line. And I don't know, Jake Elliott's really shaky. I don't know if he makes that field goal. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Jalen Hurts isn't the best quarterback in the world. And if they were able to put him under pressure in the 4th quarter, maybe get a different game. But yeah, Eagles built the perfect team. Tom Brady piece, and then I'll be done, is he's the 2nd biggest winner yesterday outside the Eagles, because now it's over. It's like over. The only thing Mahomes can do is what LeBron did, which is, I don't know, play until he's like 45 and maybe just accumulate more rings by the time he's finished. But based on just like how you feel in the moment and the fact that Brady called the game yesterday, yeah, that one's over. Mahomes 3-2, 2 losses to Brady, 2 blowout losses, no three-peat. So that's that. Brady, not a great job yesterday. Tony Romo, Chris Collinsworth, and Aikman probably 3rd, I actually learned something when I'm watching the game with all the damn replays and the circles and the X's and the diagrams, especially Collinsworth. He's the best. Where I actually learn what the hell's happening during the game. Brady feels like I know he knows what's happening, but it's just happening too fast for him to articulate it to us, or he wants to know exactly what's happening, or I don't know. But I didn't learn very much listening to him. Didn't think he did the best job entertaining us. Subpar performance for him, but he's officially going to be the best quarterback of this generation because he got to beat Mahomes, and now Mahomes has the ugly games on his resume in the Super Bowl. So that's my overall take for everything. The bets were what they were. I think I was 10-6, so I can live with that. Just annoyed with Worthy at the end of the game. Could have thrown. They're gonna throw all these balls at the end. No Noah Gray. So that was annoying. I don't know why I had to take two Noah Gray props. It doesn't seem like the smartest thing in hindsight. But anyway, overall was pretty much on this game. I had a feeling the Eagles' offensive and defensive line would hold up. Barkley didn't get his, but the defensive line for the Eagles was the MVP. So if you're trying to understand football, it's really not super complicated. Every team's trying to do the same. Every smart team, I shouldn't say every team, because there's some teams that don't prioritize the offensive and defensive line. Miami Dolphins come to mind, where they're like, wait, they still don't know how football is being played. You got to have offense and defensive line. So Eagles got the best. They win. That's that. Talk about my company and where things are at moving forward here over the next few days. Coaching basketball today, so I'm going to hit the road. And yeah, I'll see you guys here shortly. I'm trying to think if there's something else. I think that's about it, but I'm sure I forgot something. But I'm going to break down the game more with J Mark, get his thoughts on it over the next few days. Good luck on basketball bets. I'm going to, this help erase my memory of the college basketball from this week, but gonna get better. Excited here, getting ready for the tournament, getting ready for Maryland. Maryland, didn't love the way it played yesterday, but they did win. So see you guys soon. Have a great day. Take care.